I'm Heidi Harris in for Annie Frey. Good afternoon. Lots of news, of course. Lindsey Graham's sister has now been appointed to fill in as the interim senator for South Carolina, first woman to do that in the state of South Carolina. Very exciting. I think it's great because she's an outsider, but she knows more about the inside than a lot of people would because apparently they're very, very close. Joining us right now is Jared Halpern. He's a White House correspondent, political anchor for Fox News Radio. How are you, Jared?
I'm well. How are you?
I am doing well. So here's my question about Lindsey Graham's sister. What's the attitude in the White House and in D.C. in general? Because I know Nancy Mace, she had to be one. I'm so glad they didn't pick her. Oh, my gosh. You don't have to comment on that.
Well,
I
listen,
will.
I mean, I think the reason you don't go with somebody like Nancy Mace is because she is rumored to be considering jumping into that race, that the governor had made clear that he wanted this to be a caretaker role. This is a term that ends at the end of this year. So this is just
right.
a short-term ask. It allows this primary and the election that will follow to run its course. Because if you get appointed and you're running, it kind of may give somebody an advantage, and the governor doesn't want to do that. But also, you are then running what could be a pretty competitive general election while also serving in the Senate. It takes you away from the campaign trail. And so from just a pure campaign perspective, it makes a lot of sense to go with Darlene Graham, the younger sister of Lindsey Graham. President Trump says that this is a suggestion that he had made. Others had made the suggestion. Seems to be a lot of eagerness to get her into that position. She'll be sworn in here in about half an hour or so on the Senate floor. And she is somebody, obviously, that knows her brother's thinking on an awful lot of issues. She is not a politician, has not held or run for office, but she's been by her brother's side, by Lindsey Graham's side, throughout his entire political career.
Right,
she was at his launch when he announced that he was running for president. She has been with him on election night. She has been with him when he has announced he is running for re-election in the Senate. She was an unofficial sounding board, an unofficial advisor to her brother. So she comes in at least with an understanding of where Lindsey Graham was on a whole host of issues that she may have to vote on here, or at least for the next couple of months.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is she may be an outsider, but she has a lot more inside knowledge than a lot of people. We're speaking with Jared Halpern, White House correspondent and political anchor for Fox News Radio. I'm Heidi Harris in for Annie Frey. You mentioned something about when you're in office and you're dealing with a competitive race. I mean, that happens not with every senator, but that does happen with sitting senators a lot. Do you think there's any chance that Darlene Graham Nordon is going to want the Senate seat long term?
She hasn't said she does. She said that she's doing this to kind of finish Lindsey Graham's job. She has not indicated that she wants to run a race for the Senate. I think there are going to be a lot of people that start to announce. This is going to be a lightning fast process, by the way. Remember, Lindsey Graham had the Republican nomination for re-election. That happened a couple of months ago. He won the primary. He was the Republican nominee. This sets up a process that happens really quick, at least from a campaign perspective. Starting next week, candidates can start filing the paperwork to become a candidate for the Republican nomination. There will be a primary election in early August, and if necessary, a runoff election a couple of weeks after that. And then it's the general election. And keep in mind, Democrats went through this primary the same time as Republicans. They have a nominee. She is in place. She has been running ads. And so there is going to be some pressure amongst Republicans to, have somebody who has the apparatus already kind of in place to hit the ground running and run a statewide election. In a place like South Carolina, which, listen, I don't think is in purple state territory by any stretch of the imagination, but this is a wrinkle. This is an unknown. We know what the political environment looks like, the landscape looks like. And so a bruising Republican primary, as short-lived as it is maybe not what the state party is going to be looking for. So we'll see how many folks kind of jump in. Does President Trump get involved? Does he put his thumb on the scale? Certainly, we know that he has endorsed in the past as a pretty good win-loss record, at least in Republican primaries with that endorsement. And so I think over the next few days, as I look at the landscape and the field, that's what I'm going to be looking for, kind of signals that President Trump wants this to be a quick process without too much Republican on Republican violence, if you will.
That's a very good point you made. I'm just thinking as a voter, I'm thinking from the voter's perspective. I
Sure.
kind of like the idea of a short primary and go right to election. I mean, instead of a long,
Listen,
drawn out.
That's how they do it in other countries don't have 24/7, 365 election cycles. They take breaks. There are laws in other countries that don't let you have an election for more than like 4 weeks. Maybe something to look into. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I absolutely think that might be something to look into. I think it might help, but I understand your point about the Republicans having to get it together and put out whatever ads, and it is different. But then a lot of people say nobody pays attention to anything until after Labor Day. You do because you're in it. I do because I'm in it.
Yeah.
But the average voter, and I'm not putting anybody down. It's not about they're not smart. They're taking summer off like we should, right? And so they start getting interested in things after Labor Day. And I'm thinking, I don't know how much this short campaign is going to change things if they start paying attention after Labor Day. What do you think?
No, well, it's a shorter time frame, especially if somebody who is nominated is not. Lindsey Graham had name recognition like maybe nobody else in the state of South Carolina, right?
Right.
So a lot of people would say, oh, that's Lindsey Graham. He's been my senator forever. He's been my congressman. Vote for Lindsey Graham. If it is somebody who represents, say, downstate or somebody that represents upstate and maybe doesn't have that statewide portfolio, that's the only challenge, right, is kind of trying to build that name recognition, build that message, and win that trust in a way that maybe, somebody who was an incumbent, certainly an incumbent as long as Lindsey Graham, doesn't have to do, right? That was you never did not know where Lindsey Graham was on any issue. As somebody who covered him for a long time, I can tell you, we never wanted to. It was never like, oh, I wonder what Lindsey Graham thinks about this, right? Like you knew where he stood on issues, I think voters appreciate that, and so he was a known commodity. Obviously, now somebody who comes out of this field may not be as quite as known a political commodity.
Interesting. Well, it should be fascinating to see because this is an unusual event. This doesn't happen very often. What do you hear about Mitch McConnell speaking to senators we haven't seen lately? What are you hearing about that real quickly?
Obviously over the weekend, he put out that lengthy statement, explained his situation, explained the health, that he had a fall, got pneumonia. His physician put out a statement as well. They had the photograph. Everybody made note that it was that day's Washington Post with the big draft pick that the Washington Nationals made, a hometown kid. We're all very excited. But it raises questions about kind of transparency. I mean, it basically took the governor of the state demanding some transparency here about what is the situation, when are you coming back? We still don't know exactly when he intends to come back. He is not running for re-election, remember. There is a Senate race in Kentucky, and so we'll see kind of how that plays out when he returns. If he decides to not come back, there is a process that's a little bit different. It's a little bit more partisan in Kentucky with how you choose a replacement. But you're also very close to a general election. And so that is a different situation, certainly, than Lindsey Graham. And we'll see how that plays out over the next days and weeks.